Hey everybody, going to be playing some games from this itch.io bundle. So okay. I went through the entire bundle, like all 59 pages. Page 59 has only one item on it, so it's 58 pages plus one item. Anyway, I know that because I scrolled through every single page, made note of every single game that has interested me in some way. Now, after purchasing this bundle, I have to actually play these games. Now, like I said, almost 300 to be precise. Look at the chart here. You have 296 games that I can play on a Windows computer and look interesting to me and are part of this bundle. Now, it's not actually 296 games. There is a handful of like sequels, but also within this bundle there's three more bundles. Two of the bundles are reasonable, of 3 games each. I think another one is 5 games bundle, but then there's like a 50 game bundle within this 1,500, almost 2,000 files of programs and tabletop games and video games and all this stuff. So basically, I couldn't help but save it when I see that thing going. Okay, I got 296 games, and to decide what I'm going to play, I got a random number generator here. So go ahead and say 296 if my wireless keyboard wants to work. Okay, and the game we will be playing today. Hey, where's the result? That's interesting. Okay, there's nothing there. Maybe. It was blocking it like an ad. Okay. Fascinating. Let's try this again. And when my keyboard decides to work. I'm using 2 computers. Maybe interfering with each other. Alright. So the game we are playing, let's try this again, is game number 165. Now, I went through all these games in like a stupor, so I don't even know what most of these games are about anymore. There's a handful. Okay. Interactive portraits, trans people in Japan. Now that's the kind of game I wanted out of this bundle too. Learn me some things about different ways of life. Alright, so now we have to find that. I'm gonna go over to itch.io and search for it. Go ahead and download it. Alright. Press Z. Okay, so I'm not going to need a controller for this one. So I could take this thing, set it aside, press Z. Whoa, okay, that was intense. Alright, let me gather myself. Whoa. Okay. Z. Interactive portraits. Okay. No, of real life trans people. trans activists, trans artists, trans thinkers. Really thinking about that one. Okay, do I keep pressing Z? I'm gonna relax for a moment. Gotta stop overthinking it. Continue. Based on interviews carried out in Japan in spring 2018 by Zoyander Street. It's just starting to get good. Press Z to continue. I've been pressing Z. I got that much down. Oh, it's a real game in here. Okay. Press down up to move. Press Z to launch portrait. Names have been changed. Cassio, Katie, Alicia, Shig, Mamita, Aria, Jesper, Natsuo, Kensho. Hey, why do these have asterisks? Ren, Itsuki, Sayaka, and credits. What's all that? Okay, stay focused. Let's go in alphabetical order. I'm Alicia, but my name is actually Arata Kitamura. I'm a theater director. Wait, did she just tell me her real name? Okay. Cool name. You kept your own name? Does my keyboard have a low battery? What's up with this? Rada is a super strong guy's name, the image of a hero, but for some small percent it's a female name. When my parents were young, they were a generation that was fighting police against society, all that. The Chinese character my parents gave me means revolution. Before elementary school, when I was 5 or something, I asked them, what does it mean, revolution? What's the difference between change, renewal, innovation, and revolution? What does it mean for you? It was a curse, all the time, having to think, what is revolution? That was my childhood. Crazy. I didn't do anything with revolution in society, so I made a revolution for my gender, as new half in Tokyo, trans female in New York, and living a surreal life as an artist. New half is like a transgender woman who has had hormones and operations. A totally beautiful woman, but the voice is a bit lower. 90% of New Half members were former biker gang members. We had no idea about gender politics. We just wanted to be extravagant and beautiful, to live a theatrical life, a very short, condensed life. But at the same time, I was scared to be admiring and longing for it so much. When I started university, I quit it. I wasn't brave enough. When I started again later, I knew I couldn't go back to being a guy. I wanted to keep on with my theater activities. I felt I shouldn't be like a super strange person. The image of transgender was like a super strange person, like a courtesan or prostitute or nasty person. At that time, I worked in a show pub. Show pub is like a cabaret. So we did dancing, drama, comedy, doing very beautiful things with hospitality, some kind of romantic services. That was my dream. I didn't expect that I can be smart, intellectual, and speak English. I just wanted to be super popular and earn money. You met other trans artists? In '95, I founded a theater company called Les Années Folles, Years of Folly, like an old Russian theater group. Nobody at that time was paying attention to movement, art, philosophy, society. I couldn't understand why nobody was challenging things. What did you make in Japan? I met Jennifer Miller in Los Angeles. She's kind of complex. Her face is totally like Jesus Christ, and her body is totally like a beautiful woman. And she does political art like that. Is a very good dancer. She is almost the same age as me. I had never seen such a kind of gender in Japan. I got kind of a fresh feeling. How did Japanese people react? My first piece when I came back to Japan was my own writing, called Hannah Was Not Menstruated, for 5 years since Loved by a Spaceman. When I came back to Japan, everybody said my theater piece was surrealistic. Jennifer Miller said to me, "Transgender life is a surrealistic life. This is normal for us." That's great, right? Because I didn't decide to be a surrealist, but I don't have to care. My life is surrealistic. Everybody was surprised by me because before I left, I was a very woman-like guy. It was like, this guy is so strong, you can totally look like a woman. After I came back to Japan around 2003, I was totally a woman and had become philosophical. People started to be scared and started to pay attention. My life totally changed. Any other questions? I'm just a normal woman. I really hate when somebody wants to judge what kind of person you are. I'm very comfortable traveling in the countryside because nobody knows about gender identity issues. The younger generation of trans people are just beginning, so they want to present something, but for me, if nobody asks, that's a dreamy situation. Shinjuku is very comfortable for me, but sometimes drunk guys are like, "Oh, I've been drinking around, so I know so many new have, and I don't like that kind of attention. I'm just a normal woman. Of course, I have some background, but that's not your business." Thanks for talking with me. Oh, I'm too lazy for that. I'm too lazy now to keep maintained in any way, shape, or form. I love to eat, and I love to sleep. Okay, so A, there's no B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, so I guess I, Uria, and Itsuki, so Uria, Z to go. My identity is genderqueer, transcending the binary, or crushing it from below. Uria is resting. Not transgender. How else have you identified? It's going to be more fun if my keyboard wanted to work. Oh, I didn't know I could choose the option. I used to identify as transgender, but in Japan, trans means transitioning, not transcending. How else have you identified? The first term I used to describe my gender was X-gender. I have a friend who is X-gender and pansexual. It's difficult to say because I don't want to stereotype. It's hard not to stereotype. Say more about drag. People don't understand what drag queen means. And oh no. There's drag phobia in the trans community in Japan. They think drag queens are laughing at trans people. I respect drag queens a lot because they are very intelligent. They have to be. They are queens. Why don't people understand? In Japan, people want to know that they are not exceptional. Is Japan accepting of LGBT? If I went to America, I would be killed. In Japan, that doesn't happen. Instead, people simply don't care. What makes you think that? For example, the law about trans people is absurd, but people don't even know it exists. Do you have legal rights? In Japan, if you want to change sex on your family register, you must not be able to have children. Do you protest the law? Although I am genderqueer, I often write about this law because we must all live and act together. People not caring sounds fine. No. Thanks for... Not caring about us is different to accepting us. Thanks for talking with me. Okay, so next is Itsuki. Where to begin? I was born in the 1960s. I'm 56 years old, but I tell my students I'm 36. Itsuki is having a snooze. Have things changed? Gradually, new ideas are developing. Maybe we're on version 2.0 of gender now, and version 3 will really separate orientation, sex expression, and identity. What do you do? I have worked at this school since 1985, and I worked here as a man until 1999. Why do you teach? I'm very concerned about human rights. About 25 years ago, I realized that it is not teachers who empower children. Children empower each other. Well, I drink a lot. Is gender in conflict? Cisgender people use a toilet that matches their identity, and trans people do the same thing. It is consistent. There is only a problem because people make it into a problem. How do you make change, or how do you make change? I created peer support groups for Buraku, Korean, Japanese, and trans children. Buraku? The first peer support group that I ran was for Buraku children. What is Buraku? Buraku students are discriminated against, and students' grades tend to follow their social position. A subculture? Buraku people have their own culture. For example, their way of talking is different, but they have to hide it in school. Buraku students don't use their native dialect with outsiders. They can't use it at school. I affirm the students for who they are. What about the other groups? Once I've started something, I can't stop. I'm now doing gatherings for Buraku students, Korean students, LGBT students. When I transitioned, many transgender students from around the country started to contact me. How did they find you? I was on TV in 2003 in an NHK broadcast about trans people in high schools. After that, it was natural to do gatherings for trans students. What makes it challenging? It really troubles me when adults come to these groups and try to give hasty advice, like offering to introduce a student to a clinician when they say, I want to take hormones. How do you help them? Whatever the children want to do is fine, but I'm there to give advice, so I don't just say okay when they say I want to take hormones. I advise them to think about it more. There are many different kinds of people and many paths they could take. But if they do go to a clinic, I affirm that. You feel responsible for them? I'm a facilitator, but I fundamentally don't need to do anything. For example, on a field trip, there was a trans girl who wasn't talking to anyone, hiding in a corner. A group of kids went to talk to her on their own. I was so relieved. How do you see gender? I think gender expression is very important. Tell me about something else. Once I've started something, I can't stop. I'm now doing gatherings for Buraku students and Korean students. I've gone through both of these already. Interesting. I've lived with Buraku for 15 years, so I know their culture. I can understand the culture of Buraku students and speak their dialect. Oh, you're doing it your way. In the 90s, I realized I was transgender. Discussions about it were spreading in Japan, but it was still not clearly understood. And I too didn't have the view that one should decide things for oneself. I was always checking what other people thought. What was transition like? I saw a doctor who said I probably had gender identity disorder. I felt I could do something and had to do it my way, but there's a system. Doctors check you, conform to guidelines in order to guide treatment. In 2005, I decided to cooperate with the system. You oppose the system? I have no intention of changing my ID to female. I wish the state was not involved in gender. Similarly, even if same-sex marriage is made legal, I won't get married. The marriage system itself values partnerships, but we should value people. Why did you comply? I had to get to a state where I had been permitted to get surgery so that I would know whether or not I truly wanted it. Otherwise, I might feel that I wanted surgery just because I was not allowed it. Thanks for talking with me. Oh man. Okay, I'm back one cat louder than before. We're still working on this game. Okay, so I got I, J, K would be next. So we have Kazu, Katie, and Kensho. So K-E, Katie, yeah. Oh, Z. I'm transgender and empty. See, I didn't even get the intro. Katie is relaxing. Do you mind talking about gender? Some conversations don't feel good. Is it better not to ask? If someone doesn't mention my gender, I feel I have to introduce myself suddenly. What are bad gender combos? Some people are too bold asking if I'm female, but if they don't mention my gender, they might not understand me. These two responses are very different. I think I need some middle reaction. They really call you female? I think they feel I come from comedy. They want to see some vivid reaction from me. Female is a comedy thing? Movie television says females spend money on their faces. But this is just the influence of comedy. So people ask me, how much did you pay for your face? But actually, I did not pay for my face. It's my natural face. You're not made of money. People think you are transgender, you are female, so you spend a lot of money on your beauty. But actually, I'm a student. I'm poor. Just a normal person then. I want to enjoy my life and be a normal female, but on the other hand, I want to propagandize myself. Propagandize? It's a very big word, but if people knew about my life, they would know that transgender is not a special identity. How do you propagandize? I want to create a good world, and I need to show some vision to other people. What is your vision? I want to make a smooth world. We tend to make walls between people. If I say this is an office, it means I made a boundary between office and other. It is difficult to name a space when the idea is designed to design something responsive. This is my society. This is not my society. This is not art. A smooth world would have no gender categories. I don't want to say male or female. We can design what people want. It's a kind of smooth world. I am not the designer. It is the citizens who design. In my architecture practice, we design workshops to allow citizens to design their spaces. If I say this is an office, it means I made a boundary. We tend to make walls between people. So the designer is not me. The designer is the citizen. We don't design. We organize workshops to let citizens design for themselves. What makes smooth work fun? Normal architecture projects start from the program, so the client comes to the office and says, I want you to design a cafe, or I want you to design an office. Well, we don't receive that kind of project. We discuss with the client. When we understand the client's situation, then we show the ideal building for them. No program? If I say this is an office, people think, okay, I need to be quiet. I need to concentrate in here. If I say this is the library, people start to think, oh, I need to read in here. So I don't want to mention the program. I just want to focus on activity. Here you can smoke. Here you can enjoy art. Is this like anarchism? But sometimes we need to control people, because if I say you can do anything in that architecture, people may misunderstand the space. The difficulty is how to use design as a good medium. If I am to create a smooth world, I have to care about misunderstandings. Why are boundaries bad? Trump is trying to construct a wall, and your country, with Brexit, is trying to make boundaries. But there are no boundaries, I think. There are gradations. When did you come up with this? I started to think about breaking boundaries in 2016. That was when I changed my own gender. When I was male, I believed I was male, but now I can't believe in categories of gender through that experience. I know that categorization makes the world worse. What makes smooth work hard? It is difficult to talk about the program. Program, for architects, is the name of the room. Like kitchen or office, I always focus on activity, because when we talk about the program, sometimes we mislead. Thanks for talking with me. Okay, next up is Kazu. I grew up in the countryside and came to Tokyo to do film work, but I really want to go back to the countryside. Why do you want to go back? I still like places with a nice natural environment. So being in Tokyo doesn't really feel right to me. Why did you move to Tokyo? This is a bad thing to say, but in Gunma Prefecture, the cultural level is very low. It isn't a place where I could freely create the kind of things I want to. What's wrong with Gunma? Basically, many theaters are the only places that play films from overseas, or LGBTQ+ films. There's only one of them in Gunma Prefecture. The culture of watching these films does not exist at all. Why do you make films? At first, it was just for fun. I've been making films since I was a high school student, so that would be about 10 years ago. What are your goals? I try not to exclude people who do not understand. I use storytelling to tell them something, to make content that everyone can agree on. Do people change their minds? People who do not have any knowledge about sexuality and those who did can both respond to the protagonist in the same way. So maybe they can understand not by thinking about it, but by feeling it. Things that we feel can be transmitted to others through film. So you started young? I had not come out at all to the people closest to me when I made my first film. Some people in my family found out through seeing the film. What was coming out like? Some people didn't understand. I got a bad reputation for having come out by making a film. Are things changing? My experience of things changing is very subjective. In what way? I started hormone injections when I was in my early 20s. Then I had chest surgery too. What's it like for you now? Now I almost never feel major stress in society because of my body or sexuality. Before starting hormones, my various stresses in life were tremendous. I always had to come out to people I met for the first time. Gross old men in the film world around me would comment on my appearance, and sometimes there was serious sexual harassment. Did it affect your films? The stress I used to feel came out in my work a lot. When I watch my films now, I realize that my personal problems were portrayed in them to a huge extent. Is your filmmaking changing? I'm sure that now I can get away from the more personal aspects and separate more of the things happening now in Japan or in the world from my own personal issues. What's LGBT Japan like? A lot of FTMs are very macho for sure. I intended to be that way at one point as well. You're not like that now. I can absolutely say within myself that I am a man, but there is more to me, and it would be nice if I could express myself in more ways. What's it like for trans men? It's very common among FTMs to assume that having treatment equals happiness. Having treatment makes you more of a man, among other trans people. Is there bullying? There's this tendency that I just don't understand of trashing trans people who aren't having treatment. It's a major current at the moment among transgender people. I really hate that kind of thing. What's it like in Gunma? Even in Gunma now, they have places where young LGBT people can gather, but last week I interviewed a kid who could basically only meet gay people using a hookup app. Older men try to take him to hotels and stuff, and he is forced to just run away. Okay, L M N. So Netsu is next. Oh, M. Wait, is that an N or an M? I guess I could, no, that's an N, so these are M's. So M A M. Okay. I'm a trans activist in Japan. Mostly my activism is about LGBTQ youth voting. Mamita is sleeping. Why do activism? I like to meet many people and discuss how they think about society and LGBT issues. What do you talk about? I want to know the stories and histories of people struggling with gender. What stories inspire you? I like to talk with people who are older than me and hear their stories. Who inspires you? Tell me a good story. My friend Savage wrote a book that became a movie called Yuriko das Vedanya about a woman called Yoshiko Iwasa. Yoshiko was born about 100 years ago, and she was dating a famous writer, Yuriko. She was always wearing boys' kimono, and she walked like a man, and she always behaved like a man. And if she lived today, she might be trans. Tell me more about Yoshiko. When Yoshiko was 80 years old, Savage tried to ask her about their relationship. At first, Yoshiko didn't want to talk about it because it is easy to misunderstand. Who inspires you? What did Savage do? When she found out that Savage is a lesbian, Yoshiko became very happy, and she openly talked about their relationship and shared the letters they wrote to each other. Both were writers, and those letters were like poems. How lovely. Yoshiko was a researcher of Russian literature. She eventually broke up with Yuriko, but she couldn't say goodbye officially. So Savage wrote Yuriko des Vedanya. It is very touching. Why does she inspire you? She's very inspiring. When she was young, there's very little information about lesbians and trans. How did that affect her? She's very butch, and she says if she was born later, she might have identified a different way. How is it for youths now? The younger generation is realizing earlier that they are trans and starting transition earlier. Their experience is different. In what way? I met a trans girl who goes to school as a girl every day. She has allies, her family has allies, they have role models. Are children transitioning? They start medical transitioning earlier now, stopping puberty using hormones. What makes you love life? I have many friends. Because of your activism? If I were not trans, I would not be so political, and I wouldn't be talking with so many people. Because I need to talk about many things, I need to open to many friends. I need to open to my friends, and my friends are open to me. Because you're trans? If I were not trans, I might not have so many friends. How do you cope with trouble? When I have problems, I can call on my friends. It's not always political stuff. It could be because I broke up with my girlfriend. But I think, how do I put this? I talk deeper with my friends. Thanks for talking with me. Okay, next is Matsuo. There's an asterisk. I wonder why. My partner is a surrogate mother, and I wonder if she is going to be okay. Does it make you feel bad? When my partner said that she wanted to have children and raise children, I felt it would have been simpler if my body could give her that, and I felt kind of sad. That sounds painful. Perhaps I have some internalized transphobia. I have never had any sense of trans pride. Why not have pride? Being transgender isn't my ideal. My ideal is to have a male body. That sounds complicated. But I haven't had to worry as a result of being trans. I have the same worries as everyone in this area. What will happen to our jobs? What will happen to society? What will happen to jobs? I think I transitioned at a really good time. When I first started looking for work in Tokyo, I was hired as a man. Only the director knew I was trans. Where do you work now? My dad's company is very small, about 6 people total, but apart from my parents, only one of them knew me from childhood, so it's not bad. What work do you do? I had been working for a subsidiary of an electronics company. When things became tough, my own work hours were reduced by about half. You almost made it. I had been working for a subsidiary. Oh, okay. My dad told me that I should come home, so I did. Now we repair cars together. How is work going? Thinking 5 years into the future, work connected with cars is going to gradually reduce. There are more and more places where it's convenient to live without a car, and everybody's spending their money on computers and smartphones rather than on cars. Are you married? I'm polyamorous, though right now I only have one partner. Are many LGBT people polyam? In Japan, polyamory doesn't exist to a large enough extent to have entered the LGBT community, but if it does become more well known, perhaps it might count as a type of sexual minority. Are people accepting of it? People sometimes say about polyamory, I feel so sad for your partner, but it's their business if they feel bad. Isn't it kind of sad though? If I told you that I thought you were making your partner sad, it would probably really bother you. Of course people are sad sometimes, but you don't even know her at all. Why do you value polyamory? I only have one partner and I feel happy, so am I even polyamorous at this point? I just feel that it is natural to love people. What if you weren't LGBT? I don't know if I would be polyamorous if I wasn't transgender. What if you were cis? Perhaps I would still come to the same conclusion if I was not trans, just as a result of my education. What made you choose polyam? I think it's strange to deny our love for people, or to say that it isn't allowed. Thank you. Oh, the asterisk names, those names have been changed. Not everybody's names have been changed. HIJKLM NOPQRS. It's got the K's, A's, M, I. It's just Jesper, Ren, and the two S's. So we're starting with QRS. I'm Ren. I work at various LGBT. Oh, man, I never get that first part. When did you start working? I've been doing this since 7 years ago. Why did you start? Originally, I was living in Kobe and wished there was a place for the LGBT community to gather there. The first place I accessed was in Osaka. What's the Osaka Center like? Even now, the Queer and Women's Resource Center in Osaka is a super important place for me. I think it is a very good nonprofit org, so I want to help them. What has changed? The topics haven't changed all that much in 7 years. Some people have stopped coming since then, but I think it's probably a good thing if they've come to terms with themselves. What topics come up? Many of the issues have existed forever, like coming out to parents. Coming out is hard. Yes, employment counseling related to work is also an ongoing problem. Many people cannot find work because they are trans. Is there government support? The local governments seem to sense that there is important work to be done, and people need to be able to talk to someone about LGBTQ+ issues, so telephone consultation services are being provided. Are they any good? Some of them are good. I'm doing telephone consultation at Yodogawa Ward until March. I think it is a really great phone consultation service. That sounds ambitious. I'm a bit worried because the staff at many of these government offices have little knowledge about LGBTQ+ issues. There are no resources to improve their skills when providing this kind of consultation. What should people do? It would be better if people come in person rather than making lots of phone calls. Many of these government-run phone lines are not staffed properly. It's down to luck. How can they help them? Many of them just refer people to another service at an LGBTQ+ center, like work in Osaka, but we can't take on all these referrals from the city government. You also support schools? I like to give lectures on diversity of LGBTQ+ people. What do you teach? I start by explaining that LGBTQ+ issues are not specific problems, but part of a larger family of issues that affects all social minorities. How do you teach this? I teach them about the 4 indices of sexual orientation, gender expression, and so on, so that they know that this includes everyone. After that, I talk about the problems facing LGBTQ+ students. Is this important to you? I think that it would be good if this work were not necessary, if the teachers were able to answer students' questions on this topic. The teachers should improve. Some teachers have been inviting me to speak for years. Surely they can handle the topic by now. Okay, next is Sayaka. Keep hitting that. It's gotta be Z. I'm 57 years old, but people think I'm... Oh well. They all look like cats. What do you do for fun? I like to go to hot springs with my partner. We have no money, so we go to public hot springs in the open air. What do you do for work? I've worked with non-profits. For example, in Japan, a lot of blind people work as massage therapists, so I help them to find clients and drive them to jobs. Does being trans affect you? Most people don't know that I am trans, so rather than being rude to me, there are awkward situations such as people talking about the menopause with me. I'm not sure how I should respond. Are you out as trans? I didn't come out as trans to my partner until last year when I ran for political office. He was shocked, but we're still together. Is your partner You ran for office? I ran for ward councillor in Amagasaki in 2017. You weren't out before? Till last summer, I didn't think I would come out. When I did, my partner was a little angry. It came as a big shock to him. Despite all that, we are still together. What was campaigning like? It takes a lot of work. Every day before work, I went to the train stations to speak to commuters, and after work, I do the same, then distribute flyers and drive around in a campaign van with a loudspeaker. Sounds like a big problem. I wanted a campaign to make this more visible to people. Why did you come out? One day, after I'd been speaking outside the train station, a young person I didn't know on Twitter told me that seeing me there I was campaigning for LGBT rights to appeal to people for change, but it was the stranger who gave me the courage to be out. Is the political system fair? It's really hard to become a politician. It's expensive. Only people with money can do it. The entry fee to run for city council is $2,000. What's next for you? I'm getting older in a way that is fun for me. That's pretty cool. I'm kind of a cool lady. I ride bikes, use computers, drive cars. I'm not a stereotype. Is there pressure to conform? When I first transitioned, I tried to make myself fit stereotypes. I wore skirts and high heels and really worked at it, but it felt wrong. That's not who I am. Are you going to retire? There's more that I can do. I can still do more things. People tell me that I am too old, but I am still young. Okay, next is Shiggy. I'm X-gender in English. Oh man. Is feeling comfortable. What are your pronouns? In Japanese, we don't have he or she, but we have different words for I, like boku for man and watashi for woman. Are there no other pronouns? In kindergarten, I called myself ibun or self. My teacher corrected me. Call yourself watashi. Is it different for kids now? I'm trying to change it by talking to parents about gender and sexual diversity and running a support group. How do you talk to parents? I use picture books like Introducing Teddy to talk about gender and sexual diversity. Sounds like hard work. Sometimes I've wanted to stop. It's difficult to get people interested in this. Why do parents come to it? Parents say it is a good thing to learn about LGBT issues because if their child is LGBT, they do not want to cause harm. It sounds like it's working. Little by little, people are becoming interested in this workshop. How to handle parents' norms. I try to ask about parents' hopes for their own futures to access the gender norms that affect them. What makes it difficult? Most parents live in strong heteronormativity and gender norms. How do you hope to help? What I hope for is that little by little, if I talk to people face to face, society will change. How should society change? People will recognize that transgender people are not special. Not special? We are ordinary people, just ourselves. This is not a big thing. Thanks for talking with me. Okay. One more interview. I think I got everyone except Jesper. I'm a YouTuber and blogger, also known as Queer as Cat. Blogging? Yeah, Tumblr is a double-edged sword. Say more about Tumblr. Say more about Tumblr. We don't use Tumblr. It's hard to explain, but, well, what's the good side of it? I feel empowered, getting my voice out there and having people relate to it. What's the bad side? For example, someone read a thing I wrote on asexual representation in a TV show and took offense. What happened then? That spiraled into them ranting and spreading it all over, even on Twitter. That sounds upsetting. It can light a fire with depression and anxiety. Tumblr sounds upsetting. But it is upsetting. Okay, what's asexuality? I try to avoid explaining. People don't always listen? Yeah, but I usually just say there are a lot of definitions. For me, it means I've never been sexually attracted to anyone. Have you been in love? Yes, I've been in love. I just didn't want to do the sex thing, even then. What's the bad side of it? 9 or 10 years ago, the word asexual wasn't as developed. There wasn't this distinction of asexual from aromantic. What happened then? That spiraled into them ranting and spreading it all over, even on Twitter. Yeah, Tumblr. Romantic attraction is different from sexual attraction. It's not a package deal. Sex and love are different. Yes, these are two different things. That seems to be the most difficult thing for people to grasp. But if you love someone, romantic attraction is different from sexual attraction. It's not a package deal. Clarity of language matters. Oh, I got stuck in a loop again. Society sure is changing. Yay for the development of terminology and identities. Are things improving? Move cursor with arrows. I wish humans didn't have such a need to draw such clear lines and boxes. There's a different kind of societal pressure for me in Japan versus what I'd face back in America. Americans often place all Asian people on the more feminine end of things, which is so fucked up. I wish diversity was actually celebrated as it's claimed to be in America. In America, I have to overcompensate to not be seen as a feminine person. In Japan, I feel, as someone perceived as female, pressure to be more feminine in a way that doesn't exist in America. In Japan, when I had shorter hair, I was automatically seen as super masculine, are you even a girl? There's a different kind of societal pressure for me in Japan versus what I'd face in America. Wish humans didn't have such a need to draw such clear lines and boxes. Americans have more solidified assumptions about what it means to be black and a black woman, which is what I'm perceived as. In Japan, there are fewer preconceived notions, but that doesn't mean there's less racism or anti-blackness. Americans have more... Things are getting better, well, but not the level of better that I would hope. Jesper is exhausted by drama. Will America get better? Before Trump was elected, I would have said maybe, but now I'm generally more pessimistic. Or realistic. Is life in Japan changing? In Japan, it's really easy, especially as an English teacher, to feel like your life is stagnant. What's going well for you? 2018 has had a good start for me. I recently started HRT finally. Maybe I'm headed in a direction I want to go. How do you handle ignoredness? Usually vent online into the abyss of the internet. Is this harder in Japan? Japan is a country of harmony, no conflict, so I can't voice myself in the same way as in America. And the credits. Wait, so those are the credits? Okay, so there's no credits. But that was a very interesting game. Definitely a good one to start with. What an ending. We got the F-bomb in there right at the end. Really interesting interviews with these people. So all around, a good time was had, and we can mark 1 out of 296 games off of the list. So thanks for checking out this stream, but I am going to go now.